And the other difficult thing about car dealerships and private ones, even if you like the cars and everything like that, they're good at selling people things. And I don't mean just cars. What's up, guys? So I've got a letter here from a young man named Jonas who's interested in becoming a car salesman and figuring out as a young guy how to break into that world. Anyway, he writes, I'm looking to get some work at a dealership near me in the near future. I know better than to get my hopes up and think about selling Lamborghinis or Ferraris to all the big ballers around me. I've got to start somewhere, and like I said, even waxing some cars up and learning a little at a time would be awesome. I guess what I'm looking to hear is just the best way to present myself when going in and how to break into a sales position. Any advice is greatly appreciated, and I'd love to see a video about it sometime. Well, here we are, man. Anyway, guys, this is from Jonas. So this is a fantastic question. I've got a lot to say, as you might imagine, starting with stories. Oh, God, dude. Car sales and car salesmen. I generally hate car salesmen, and I was one. Of course, that was with specialty and classic cars for a while. And I've certainly bought and sold a bunch of cars in my own time and helped people out that way. It's tough. This is not really something you go to school for and get into. And it's something that people don't want to just let you in, because these car dealerships and such, and let's say, you know, let's talk about sports cars or some interesting cars, okay? And maybe private dealerships and such. I'm going to separate it with that. They usually need somebody that, one, yeah, of course, gets the product, but that's not the most important part. They want somebody who gets the demographic of the people that they're selling to and has the personality to charm the bejesus out of them and get them to have the confidence to put down money to actually buy something. So you've got to be charming. You got to know the product. But frankly, you know, there's most people out there that are buying, you know, $200,000 or 300,000 cars. They may not give a crap about how much horsepower it makes and the camshaft duration and the geometry and who designed it. No, they want to go to the club and pop it up on social media and do everything like this. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, of course. I'm stereotyping to prove a point. The thing about car salesmen is you have to be able to read the people in front of you. If it's just a phone call, you need to be able to get enough information out of them and hear from them and engage in some kind of short relationship quickly enough and organically enough that you can actually speak with them, not just put information out there to them. That's not going to work. That's shooting in the dark. And if you just end up being some fanboy that knows the cars really well, you know, nobody really wants to go and buy something for that. And even if you get away from Ferraris and Lamborghinis and sports cars and stuff like this that people don't need, let's say you're selling a Chevy something or other SUV to a woman who has kids, but she didn't bring her kids, but her husband's around. You know, and that person's in the decision, but she's the one out. You need to know enough about people and life and others that you can understand what their lives are like. Because people buy cars to in some way complement their life. And you need to find out how it is that that car complements their life. Is it utility? Is it just the everyday grind and they want a little fun, or they want to feel fun, or they want to feel cool? Is it sport? Are they buying this to go autocross or something like this? Is this a work truck? And the guy's wondering about like write-offs and things like this and how it'll last and blah, blah, blah. Is this a car that somebody can just wire the money to and they can pay cash with it effectively? Or is this something that's going to be a loan? Is there a trade-in? So in becoming a car salesman, you've got to be somebody who understands people. And usually when a place, especially a more noteworthy place, such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, something like that, they want somebody who can connect with lots of people. And that's why it's very difficult as a young man. Because frankly, you know, or a young woman. Because frankly, when you're young, you haven't had those life experiences and gone through them a long, long time. So it's more difficult. So if the dealerships you're looking at don't have any kind of training, any kind of way to go, if you have no way to start off as like a car porter or something like this where they notice you, where you can go to some kind of school, you're fighting an uphill battle. Now, I'm gonna bring this around somewhere. So don't despair. What I mean by the uphill battle is when I was younger, I'm trying to think how old I was. I think I was in my like early to mid 20s. I got all dressed and pressed, talked to people, made phone calls, made appointments to talk, not necessarily an interview, but like, hey, I'd like to work with you, let's talk. So I guess it was like an interview, but I kind of arranged it. With a Lamborghini dealership, that was when Nelson Lamborghini was around. I remember going by the Toy Barn in Columbus, which a lot of people, you're probably cringing right now, not because of the new ownership, but because of back in the day. Okay, let's do that. I'm not digging on them. I went up to them back in the day, and I know I tried others. And they would talk with me, but they really didn't give me the time of day. I guess I was articulate enough and interesting enough to them that they would listen, but I was too young. They were looking for people that had a big business network and connections to people they could try to sell from. Because they don't expect or really care that much if you're just going to be good if you have ups, like people driving in off the street whenever. They care that you already have some kind of network of people and ability to sell things in a way that the salesman they already have or others either can't or don't. I hope that makes sense. So they're probably not going to want you. And these places back in the day didn't want me. And at that time in my life, I had worked as a Ferrari mechanic. I had a really cool 57 Devon. I had shown it at like prestigious concours and vintage races and a bit of magazines. And I was connected to people. I wasn't like nobody, but I was still a kid. And I didn't have all those connections. And I didn't have all those life experiences. And maybe I wasn't nearly as confident. And that stuff shows. Because car salesmen know how to read you quickly. They know how to ask you questions to know if you're full of crap or what, and just know. So I was young back then, and that was difficult. And I don't know. I think it was silly. They really should have given me some kind of chance and brought me on in some capacity because there was definitely enough there that they didn't pay attention to. And since then, I've done really well in the car world. Could have been for their team, but whatever. The other thing is smaller dealerships are going to be tough. Coming on with no experience, they're going to put you in a position that's effing difficult. If you're just relying on ups, you're going to scramble, you're going to work your butt off, and you're going to hopefully maybe make some money. It's going to be brutal. So I don't necessarily think that's a great direction for you to go. It's just brutal and horrible. They'll stick your thumb on you, and they'll put you in a kind of position to where there's no salary, right? Like it's going to be commission-based and such. But they're basically putting you in a position where if they're going to bring you on, you don't hurt them. Like they already think you're good enough, have a good enough personality that you're not going to be like detrimental to them. But they don't really care if you fail because you'll leave, right? And you're not hurting them. But if you somehow miraculously succeed, they're going to do well, but you're not going to make much money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like a horrific uphill, straight up a cliff battle to maybe get anywhere. So be mindful of that because I don't think I would suggest that. Ed Bolian with Vin Mickey, he's very bright guy. He got into the Pano School for a while, and then he got into car sales, and he did very well with it. He was a really good guy for that and had the right in. He might be a good person for you to ask privately some advice if you're able to talk to me. Super busy. But lastly, there are dealerships that you might have a chance at. And what I mean to say, and how I learned this was recently a buddy of mine went with his buddy, invited me to go look at cars. They were looking at like some V6 four-door Mercedes, Audi, and BMW. So I went to a couple dealerships. And we were at the Audi Mercedes dealership. The salesman there was a young guy. He was in his mid-20s, I think. Carlton was his name, and he was amazing. He was a great salesman. And the people at the dealership, I mentioned to him, I'm like, this guy's great. Like, he's an asset to your dealership. And they told me his story that he started off as like a porter or something. And then he ended up at some event that the dealership was putting on, and he was so amazingly helpful and professional to all the clients that people started talking about him. And they sent him to like some training or some school thing. And when he went to the school thing or whatnot, there's a point system or something like that with Mercedes or AMG apparently. And he just crushed it. Like, he won or got like the most points, and they're like, we got to do something with this kid. He's being wasted. And they got him as a salesman, and he's fantastic. So there are opportunities to go somewhere if you get in with the right people. The other thing I'm going to mention on that is, so one, I just made mention of the Mercedes Audi dealership. It's higher end, it's nicer, they want people to stick around. There's a lot of people working at the dealership that have been there for decades, frankly. There's a guy there who had been there for 30 years managing the place, start off down low. So you can make a good living there and you can be part of a team. But you've got to find a dealership or like a mark where that kind of culture can exist, one. And then two, and this is going to be the harder part, and this is dead real, culture. It's all going to come down to the type of person who owns the dealership or a partner in it and where they're going. Because frankly, there's everything from like old money, hand-me-down dealerships that like, oh, I've got the oldest so-and-so dealership in the country and I'm a kid and I'm basically coasting. So I'll be nice to who I want to, but I've got enough money so I don't really care. And I don't care if these like working stiffs go anywhere or not. And I'm not making this up. I'm actually thinking of things I know right now. That probably wouldn't necessarily be the best venture for you because those are the kind of places that like the status quo and you're not the status quo, okay? There's also going to be dealerships that literally just don't care about people. And you can probably get that vibe if you go in them. If you go in there and you think this feels like how America used to portray the Soviet Union in the 1980s of like this like cold, sterile, terrible place that doesn't exist. And for all you people watching in Europe and the Soviet Union, I'm admitting that the United States was portraying that poorly. Not that you're actually that way. It's kind of a dig on our own country. Anyway, but I digress. If it feels bad, it's probably a bad culture, okay? But if you go in a place and it's got a good culture, and people are on the ball with service, greeting you, treating you like a person, even if you're some young person, then they probably have a respectful culture. And if the people there don't just seem fake, like it's a fake high-pressure sales act at some like cheap jewelry store or like cheap men's fashion place, you know what I'm saying? If it's not fake like that, and they're just really good and they are treating you with respect and care about it, and maybe you learn about the owner, maybe through some car clubs, that's a great way to learn. Because usually if a dealership guy, let's say it's Mercedes, let's say it's Ferrari, let's say it's, I don't know, BMW, all these marks have clubs. Even Corvette, you know, dealerships or Chevy dealerships have clubs. Go be part of the club. Introduce yourself to people with marks you like, learn about them, and find out about people who own dealerships. If those people like you and you vibe with them, you're already in the club, you already know people. And they know a guy who owns a dealership, you can get to know them on a more peer level basis outside of the realm of the dealership. And you will potentially be able to judge, you know, if this guy doesn't care about you, or you think it's a good culture, or maybe this is somebody who actually seems to respect others and working with them and creating a team and building that team up for the future, because that's what you want to find. I hope those ideas provide a little insight to you. But the car world can be a great place and it can be a horrific place. It all comes down to the people. And with car dealerships, if you just go in and you're just trying to get anything as a young person and you just get in, at best, it's going to be luck that that's something that's going to be worthwhile for you or last. At best. You're probably going to end up getting in somewhere where they just treat you like crap. They're going to put your thumb on you. They don't care if you go. That's just the way it is. I mean, sorry, dealership world. You know how it is. You know, it's also difficult when you get into small places that have been around a while, where everybody knows each other. Those places kind of rely on the status quo. They're generally pretty happy where they're at. And the other difficult thing about car dealerships and private ones, even if you like the cars and everything like that, they're good at selling people things. And I don't mean just cars. So you got to be careful, because these people might sell you a bill of goods that you're going to really go somewhere and make money, and we really care about you and helping you out. Yay, look at our fancy cars. Eh. They don't give a crap about you at all. That's their act. I've seen them. I know these people. I want to vomit right now. The world would be better off if they vanished tomorrow. So you've got to be careful. So it's going to be up to you to judging what the culture is and if people respect each other and what it is. And, you know, it's dangerous too, because those kind of people that'll just stick their thumb on you, not care about you, and just rag you out like, I don't know, sweeping the floors and never give you a chance. They don't care because they win. They get a free janitor. And then you go off and you're all mad, but they don't care because who are you, right? And then they schmooze all these other people. So you got to watch out for it. But there are good places that exist where you can have a shot. So if the dealership has a really good culture if the people seem to care, if you talk to people, if they don't just seem like a bunch of smarmy people that are just there for a quick snatch and grab, then it might be an all right place if they care about the culture and the history of the company and all that sort of thing. So see about where you can get in and what you can do with a job that cares about you, that actually pays you for your work. Get to know people, go to the events, meet clients. Don't be all pushy and annoying, okay? Enjoy the product, know it, but understand that the whole world doesn't just want to fanboy geek out on all cars, okay? They're just people that need cars for reasons. And you might be able to go somewhere with that. But frankly, I was never able to go anywhere with that when I was young. And I'm really, really good at selling cars. Not anymore, because I don't want to put up with people like that. I just like to go on YouTube and tell people how it actually is, which doesn't necessarily work for selling a car, because I'll just be like, that's the car you want, you're crazy if you don't buy it, and here's why. And I don't want to hem-haul around and play that game. But actually, that kind of works too sometimes. But I digress. Anyway, man, it is tough, but I have learned a lot, and there is a way for you to do that well. Selling cars can provide you a worthwhile career if you're in the right place and in the right culture. But at the same time, too, someday you might grow out of that. So you got to ask yourself, are you a salesperson? Are you big into people? Because sales is about people, not about the product. You can sell anything. It's about the people. Cool product, something you enjoy, icing on the cake. And don't forget that no matter how much you love what you're selling, eventually it's still going to be a job. So that may not be your passion and love and hobby if you do that. If you turn your love into a job, it may not be that. So you still need a hobby. Things to think about. Anyway, guys, I hope this is helpful, or at least gives you something to think about. Please comment. Let's get a conversation started, and please feel free to write. But in the meantime, I hope you will comment, like, and subscribe. See you guys next time.